Hello and welcome to this edition of the Market Share. I'm Paul Gifford, Chief Investment Officer at First Source Bank. Joining me today is Pete Cahill, one of our senior portfolio managers. Pete, a couple weeks ago in the Market Share, we wrote about several questions that we have as we look out at the markets for the next 4-5 months to a year. And some of the data we're getting back on those answers show some cross currents. So maybe can you share some of the maybe headwinds that we're facing today as we look at the markets ahead?
I'd be glad to. Economic activity, that certainly seems to be a headwind right now, and recently with the bank failures, we've been spending a great deal of time focusing on how those bank failures may impact the economy. What I'd like to share with you now is a graphic of the ISM indices. The ISM is an organization that reaches out to the business community, both within the manufacturing segment and the service segment of our economy. As you can see, the ISMs range from 0 to 100, with the line at 50 being the neutral reading. Numbers over 50 suggest that the economy is due to expand. Numbers below 50 suggest that economic contraction may be on the horizon. So what you can notice from this graphic is that just a few months ago, both ISM numbers were in the 60s. Now, manufacturing is below 50. Services is at 50% or so. So economic turbulent times could very well be ahead.
Yeah. Clearly the ISM manufacturing number is the one that really caught our attention, dropping all the way down to 46. So clearly a headwind for the economy. So Pete, let's share some of the good news and maybe a tailwind to the economy.
Yeah, sure, Paul. Well, jobs. The employment picture in the U.S. is very, very strong. I'd like to share a graphic now of two measures that we follow quite closely. The first one at the top is the unemployment rate. As we sit here today, that sits at 3.5%. That is a historic level, and that we were taught many moons ago, both of us, Paul, is that something called full employment was when the employment rate was north of 5%. What our team has also been focused on recently is the labor participation rate. And what that is that's the number of people who are working who can actually work. That number has tended to be 63% through time. You can see clearly during the pandemic that number plunged, and it's been slow to come back, but it is coming back. So where we sit here right now in the employment picture, unemployment's low. That's a very good thing. Participation continues to increase, which means people are coming back to work. So that's a good thing. The employment background clearly is a tailwind. Now it could flip to a headwind, but as we sit here right now, Paul, it is definitely a tailwind for the economy.
Very good. Now, obviously, anytime we have cross currents, which is most of the time in the market, that really puts a challenge on the team to figure out what we're going to do for portfolios. So Pete, can you share with some of the ideas that we have and that we're doing for clients in their portfolios today?
Yeah, Paul, I'd be glad to. So one of the things, just to dovetail on the cross currents, we've been focusing for over a year now on inflation and asking the question, when is inflation going to ease or when is it going to abate? That's a really important question for us as consumers. It's also a very important question to have answers because it answers when will the Federal Reserve stop raising interest rates. So to that point, I'd like to share a graph of three common inflation measures: the Consumer Price Index, the Producer Price Index, and the Personal Consumption Expenditure Index. Looking at this graph, I think it's clear to see that all three measures are telling the same story. Inflation peaked last summer, and for the last several months has been moderating. You can see that the CPI and the PCE are at 5%. And I'd like to spend a second on the Producer Price Index, PPI, that's below 3%. That's the cost that businesses that we buy things from are paying, and that has come down to below 3. And that's important because the Federal Reserve has stated that 2% is their magic number. That's their goal when they can become less restrictive on monetary policy, i.e. stop raising interest rates and potentially lower interest rates. So what are we doing for our client portfolios? Well, we continue to remain cautious as we have for the past year plus. We are focusing on diversification, as we always do, and we are committed to staying focused on the long term. It's steady and consistent is how we at First Source have found that we help our clients on the path to achievement of their financial goals and dreams.
So clearly, Pete, steady, consistent. Those are our investment philosophy. Diversified portfolios designed to be steady and consistent over the long term are the best ways to reach our goals, as you said. So sometimes in markets like this, our job is to stand pat.
Yeah, I think that's accurate of what we're doing.
So, Pete, I really appreciate your comments and thoughts today. And as always, we appreciate the opportunity to serve you and your family, and have a great day.